All right, welcome to another episode of Tough Talk Tuesday. As always, I'm your host, Lucas Biggers. Alongside me is Robert Alexander, and we have a new writer slash commentary slash a whole bunch of different stuff he's going to end up being. Jules, welcome, Jules.
Thanks a lot, Lucas. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
No, not a problem. Um, Love having you so far. So I think you're going to be a great addition to the team. But Rob, let's go ahead and get things started off right away. I know we had a lot of different topics to talk about, but I want to go back 1 week ago. Walter's quitting on the stool in his corner against Lomachenko. Was it justified?
No, not at all, and it didn't make any sense. I downplayed. Well, I talked real bad about Triple G's last fight. You know how Kell Brock, I believe, quit on that fight. So this was just blatant. He blatantly quit. He didn't want to fight. The referee asked him clearly. He stated he didn't want to continue. Look, I understand being down on the scorecards and kind of feeling defeated that way, but you always have a puncher's shot at it. And Walters does have power. He proved that against Donaire. So I don't agree with him, quitting like that in the corner just because he's simply down on points. I mean, that's really the only thing justifiable. There was no injury. He stated there was no injury, and he really, he didn't get knocked down the whole fight.
Jules, also, you feel free to jump in at any point. We just kind of a conversational topic, so we don't really. I'm not going to say, "Hey, Jules, what do you think?" all the time necessarily. So if you feel you want to speak up at any time, go right ahead. But I see where you're coming from, and I kind of wrote a piece on it, kind of agreeing with you for the most part, Rob. But there's also a piece of it that says, to live to fight another day. He knew he was outclassed clearly. Why continue? You're going to lose. I mean, there is that border there, but I am kind of interested. Jules, what do you think?
It's funny. I was just discussing this last week with a friend of mine who's also a boxing fan, and I guess you got to see both sides to it. I agree. It's kind of like Roberto Duran when he quit against Sugar Leonard in the second fight. I mean, he was vilified for that. He had all kinds of excuses, stomach cramps, but the reality was he was frustrated. And Nicholas Walters, he kind of proved that whatsoever. And, as boxing fans, right, it's the golden rule. We don't want to see our guys quit. One of my favorite fights of all time is Gotti versus Ward. And, those guys went at it. They could have quit. They didn't. And for Walters, who, as Rob said, he wasn't hurt, it is inexcusable. But at the same time, I feel like, as Rob made that point about him having a puncher's chance against Donaire, Lomachenko and Donaire, it's a total different class of boxer. I mean, not disrespecting Donaire. He's a great fighter. But in terms of Lomachenko, in my opinion, there was no way that Walters was going to have a boxer's chance. He was getting outclassed, the angles, the ring generalship. I mean, it was just ridiculous how he was making Walters look like he was an amateur fighter pretty much. So is it excusable? No. But can I understand it? Definitely I can.
All right. Now, something kind of me and Rob have talked about off air. How do you have Lomachenko pound for pound? Do you see him in the top 10?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he had correct me if I'm wrong. He won his first title in 4 or 5 fights, maybe even more than that. I mean, you have to give this man a lot of credit. I think he's one of the greatest amateur fighters of all time. He's got a phenomenal record. I think he has like 380 something amateur wins and maybe like 2 losses. So I definitely think so. I think number 1 pound for pound, I don't think so. I would like to see him go against Rigondeaux. I think that's a pound for pound fight. But to me, the number 1 pound for pound fighter, it's up for grabs. You got Lomachenko. Obviously, I guess we'll talk about the Ward versus Kovalev. That's up in the air. You know what I mean? Some people have Ward as number 1 after that fight. Some people say he's not. So, do I have Lomachenko as a top 3? Definitely. Do I have him number 1? It's a hard argument. It's a really hard argument.
All right. Rob's claiming he's not even top 10, but we love Rob. Rob's kind of our color commentary type too. I think part of him just likes to mess with us and come up with these things sometimes. But
And listen, it's the beauty of boxing. We all have our opinions. You know what I mean? I have GGG on my top. You know, a lot of people say no, he hasn't fought anybody, but you know that's just me.
Yeah, and it's also see how you rate the pound for pound. See, some people are saying what somebody can be versus what they've already done. I like to
Right.
kind of put what they've already done, what you can prove on paper, not what you think is going to happen. But I'm one of the few, so I don't have GGG usually in my top 10. Probably just recently he might have gotten moved up in there. I kind of need to do another one soon. But going on, as you discussed, Andre Ward and Loma, we were already talking about them in the pound for pound list.
Rebuttal.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, going on just what you said, you have to prove it to be top pound for pound. We can't go. We can't go based on how we feel or think you're going to do. And I don't know the history of it, but I'm willing to bet that the history top pound for pound, there has never been a fighter with 8 fights that has been in the top, even in the top 10 pound for pound after 8 fights.
Has there been a fighter with the top? A pro fighter that's actually got a title within 8 fights? It's very rare.
Actually, don't forget. I mean, we had Leon Spinks. You know, Leon Spinks beat Muhammad Ali, and he was what 7-0. You know what I mean? And obviously, we all know Ali was in the downside. May he rest in peace. That's my idol. I love him to death. But you know, Leon Spinks, you know, was 7-0 and he was undisputed heavyweight champion. So I don't know what the Ring Magazine pound for pound was at that time, but you know, beating Ali with 7 fights was a huge deal. I mean, I think next to Tyson versus Douglas, that probably was one of the biggest upsets in boxing. So, you know, with Lomachenko having so few fights, and in my opinion, you know, the competition that he's fighting, once again, we saw what he did to Walters. I mean, before the Walters quit, we were thinking that it was a close-up fight. It was boxer versus puncher. And Lomachenko took him to school. I was shocked how, you know, Walters didn't know how to cut off the ring, and Lomachenko was just making him look like an amateur. So I got to give him my pound for pound. You know, he's definitely in my top 5. I'll say that.
Right. And I mean, Walters is no chump. I mean, you got to think he's pretty much the top of the division. So, Rob, for him to treat him like he did is a huge statement.
I mean, and I'll give you that, but you also have to take in consideration he's not 8-0, 7-0. He's 7-1. He has that one loss to Salido. Granted,
good point.
Everybody gives him a pass because he came real early in his career, like his second pro bout.
Right.
But still, he also has one loss. And, you know, there's other people that deserve, you know, that credit for best pound for pound. If that's the case, Mike Garcia has a valid argument there because he's beat all those guys that Lomachenko's beat and then some. He didn't, of course.
I don't doubt that at all. I think Mikey Garcia makes a good valid point and for top 10. It's just that he was gone for a while, so he kind of dropped off.
Right.
But once he gets back in the swing of things, sure, yeah, I think it'll be definitely thrown around, and his name will definitely be in the hat. But Rob, you can't deny that one fight with Salido, very close, and I think he was really close to knocking him out towards the end. And for anybody to hurt Salido for a long period of time and have him on the ropes like he did, that still says a lot. Was that his second fight? So, I mean...
Yeah, I got to agree. And I think he also gets a pass, too, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe Salido had failed a post-fight drug test. So I think a lot of them give him that pass, Rob, because they're like, okay, well, granted, I'm like, whatever. You know what I mean? In my opinion, the L is the L. But I think that because of that post-fight drug test, a lot of people excuse it, like, okay, it wasn't on fair grounds. But no, Rob, I mean, you have a great point. You have a great point. I think, once again, he has a few fights, so that can be an argument against him.
Well, let's talk about the drugs for a minute. We don't really touch a lot on that, but I want to say something. A lot of fighters be like, I just took a Tylenol. No, you took a Tylenol 3. That's like a lower form of cocaine, man. I've taken a Tylenol 3. You could probably hit me with a hammer and I wouldn't feel shit. So that's no excuse. Tylenol 3 is a Tylenol 3. Right? You fail drug tests. If you take that before a fight, clearly cheating in my book. Going forward, though, I want to talk about a new fight that has just surfaced recently. I don't know, you two probably won't even really care that much. I know, Rob, you're a big fan of Cotto, but not of James Kirkland. This fight's set for February 27th. I'm super excited. I like both guys. Always
Yeah,
like
you and me
Kirkland.
both.
Straight come forward type guy. It's going to end in a knockout. It's just who's getting it.
You know how I feel about Kirkland. I'm disappointed. To me, for Cotto, this is a step back. We all saw what Canelo did to Kirkland after one round. You know, Cotto to me is not as powerful, so I don't think that he'll do a 1 or 2 round knockout. You know, he'll take some time in there with him, but he's very poised and patient. So he's not really going to let Kirkland throw him off his game. He's not going to go into the antics of Kirkland and all of that.
Well, you know I like Kirkland, okay? You know I do, but I got
Kirkland is not Mike Tyson, man.
Listen,
okay?
I know he's not Mike Tyson, clearly, but the chin for me, even though it is definitely vulnerable, that makes him more likable for me because the dude keeps getting up. But as you said, Cotto's not as powerful. He's not going to be able to keep him off as much. That styles make fights, man, and I'm telling you, this is very interesting to me. A lot of people saying it's a horrible fight. I don't know, man. I think both guys could go down. I think it could be anything could happen in this fight. Look at what Margarito did. I mean, he's not good with those pressure type fighters. A Pacquiao, yeah, it's a different type style, but it's still a more pressure, more aggressive type style. You know how many punches Kirkland can throw in 6 rounds. He almost threw 1,000. I mean, this dude can lay it on Cotto. And I'm sure he threw, I would have to look it up, but I'm sure he threw well over 300 in the 3 rounds he fought with Canelo. And even though he did get knocked down and knocked out, he was still putting it on Canelo. Have no doubt in my mind that Canelo felt some of his power.
Yeah, but you know how I feel. Different levels, man. And I know, agree. There are different levels to this game. You have the James Kirkland level, which is, C+, in my opinion. You have the Miguel Cotto level, which is legendary. I mean, I know Jules is going to agree with me on this one. I know.
Listen, Rob. You know what? I see both your points. I gotta be the mediator in this. I mean, I'm a huge Cotto fan. I followed him, since he came out of the Olympics in 2000, and Cotto. I got an argument with some guy. I said Cotto was a better fighter than Trinidad. It was like blasphemy when I said it, but I still stick to it. And I think, this fight, it's just a fun fight. It's one of those fights where it doesn't have any meaning. I think Cotto knows that. I think everybody knows that. It's one of those fights where, Lucas, as you said, it's a fight that people just want to see for the entertainment. You know what I mean? And, we've seen what happened with the Cotto versus Pacquiao. He's taken a lot of punishment in his career. And I think he's just looking to go out with a bang and, you know what I mean, just give us entertainment, which I cannot be mad at. Is it a pound-for-pound fight? Definitely not. But is it a fun fight that I'm going to sit down and watch? I got to say, yeah.
Even if it's pay-per-view?
Oh, well, okay, that's another story. If it's under the undercard of GGG versus Canelo, then okay, we'll talk about that, but not as a headliner.
I'm hearing it's a headliner standalone pay-per-view from what I'm hearing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge issue.
I don't think it's going to sell very well, but I still think it is going to be an interesting fight regardless. In no way am I saying Kirkland's going to walk over him. I mean, it is Miguel Cotto. I kind of get carried away with James Kirkland sometimes. And, he's been laid off for 21 months. Cotto's been about 17 months. I mean, these guys both have severe ring rust. The problem is ring rust affects more of a technical fighter than it does the bully type fighter. So
right.
That definitely could play a part into it as well, guys.
Yeah, but has more rounds than Kirkland, being that Kirkland went, 3-4 with Canelo? At least Cotto went all 12.
With Canelo, yeah. But it's still different, man. I don't know. Like I said, when he gets hurt, he reacts differently. Canelo didn't really hit him with any severe shots, at least not that I remember. Nothing that really rocked Cotto. Because I think if he did, it could have definitely changed the fight. He doesn't react well when he is hurt. he kind of gave up against Margarito. And in the second fight, I believe Margarito was starting to come back. And the eye, they stopped it a little, well, not a little early, but it got stopped. If they didn't stop it, he could have won again. That's just my take.
That's an interesting point, Lucas, because I had Cotto. I thought he was actually going to knock Margarito out. To be honest with you, because Margarito looked like he was getting stunned, especially with the left hooks, because you couldn't see out of that eye. And granted, I know Margarito had a great chin, but in my opinion, I think that was like maybe one of Cotto's best fights. I mean, he looked good. As a matter of fact, I think that was when he was. Correct me if I'm wrong, he was still with Manny Stewart at the time, and he was really looking good on his toes and boxing very well, using movement. And I really think that was Cotto's best form. And, you know, once again, as you guys were saying, this fight with Kirkland, it's not a pound-for-pound fight. It's just a fun fight. I can't wait to see it. As you said, Lucas, I don't know about pay-per-view. And, you know, Rob, you're right. I won't be paying for it because it's not a pound-for-pound fight. But, you know, if I can stream it for free, we'll see what happens.
Facebook, I have it all, man. You can stream it. All right, let's move away from the Cotto subject here. Father Time. I don't know if you guys saw Bernard Hopkins hobbled into the gym earlier today, dressed up like he was an old man. He had a cane. Crazy dude, but. He's going to be fighting his last fight. No doubt going to be a Hall of Fame fighter. But is Father Time a little bit too much on Bernard Hopkins' side right now? Is he playing a little bit too much into that? Because he definitely showed his age against Kovalev. Now, Joe Smith is definitely no Kovalev. However, it's still a dangerous puncher. I don't remember anybody rocking Farfara like he did. Yes, it was an open shot, unblocked, wild hook that just landed. Maybe so, but no denying that had some pop in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with this one because Bernard Hopkins is, you know, the funny story about Bernard Hopkins is as soon as you think Father Time is going to creep in, you know, and Max Kellerman had a great quote with this one. He said, you know, Father Time is undefeated with one draw, Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah, okay? That's the truth.
So every time you think Father Time is going to creep in and he's going to show his age and lose, he puts together a great performance. And it's against guys like these who people perceive to be younger, hungrier, you know, and a threat or a danger to them. This is where he actually shines because of his craftiness, his veteranness, you know, so to speak, if that's a word, veteranness. But
we put that in the box dictionary.
Right. Because of all of that, this is where he actually shines and pulls out a great performance. And he knows this is going to be his last performance, his last fight. He's going to try to go out with a bang. You know, I don't expect him to KO the kid. I don't expect that at all. But I think all his craftiness will be on display. He'll be able to frustrate a younger opponent who, you know, really isn't prepared for what Bernard Hopkins can bring. I mean, you really can't prepare for all of that experience, especially at that young age. So I don't feel like, I don't feel like Father Time is a threat at all here. I think Father Time's going to keep that one draw.
Well, you also got to think he's not a full-time fighter. I mean, Smith is not. He's just not. He's somebody that's working a 9 to 5 and then goes home and trains. He's not ready for a Bernard Hopkins. He's never been on this level. I don't think he even plans to be on this level. He just got a surprise call, and I mean, it doesn't really say much about Hopkins. Yeah, he wins this fight. It's kind of like the Kirkland Cotto thing. It's like, hey, it's a fun fight, but at the end of it, what does it mean? Nothing besides Bernard Hopkins is great. We already knew that. So.
Yeah, I mean, to jump in here, guys, listen, you know, Rob, you made a good point about Bernard Hopkins. Every time we think that this man is going to go down, he always rises to the occasion. And it goes back to when he fought Trinidad. I mean, if you think about it, Trinidad was the favorite in that middleweight tournament. And, you know, we saw what happened. As a matter of fact, there's a story that they had a Sugar Ray Robinson trophy for the winner of the tournament. and Felix Trinidad's name was actually on the trophy before the fight even started. So Trinidad was the guy who was supposed to win, the tournament. Bernard Hopkins was just the guy who was a stepping stone. And we saw what happened there. And, he's always done it. He's done it with Antonio Tarver. We saw what he did with Tarver and so on and so forth. And, I think with Joe Smith, Lucas, you made a good point. This is a guy who, he has a 9-to-5. He's not a full-time fighter. And with someone like Bernard Hopkins, you have to be a full-time fighter. I mean, look what happened when Jean Pascal fought Bernard Hopkins. You know what I mean? Jean Pascal was the WC champion, looked as the pound-for-pound guy at 175, and he was taken to school. So, Joe Smith, it may be the same thing. He may be taken to school by the veteran, crafty. In my opinion, I like to call B-Hop the he's our Archie Moore. You know what I mean? He's our Mongoose. He's the guy who, has the defense and, just keeps coming at an older age. So I have Hopkins by unanimous decision. He takes Joe Smith to school and caps off a great career.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think there's any way Joe Smith wins other than another crazy punch, just like Fonfara. But I think Hopkins is too smart to get caught with that. And I completely disagree with how Fonfara treated the situation. He dumped his trainer and moved out to California. I mean, that's not his fault that you didn't keep your hands home. That's your own. But
yeah, I think a lot of fighters, they can't conceive losing. I think Fonfara, he's actually the favorite in that fight. And, they can't conceive it. And, I'm sure, Rob, you could back me up on this one. I think a lot of guys, when they're perceived the favorite, as a matter of fact, he had that upset win over Chavez Jr., you know what I mean, which I'm pretty sure had his ego up in coming. And Joe Smith came out of nowhere and knocked him out. And I think, Fonfara, he was just looking for someone to blame. Kind of like what Chris Algieri did when he lost to Pacquiao. Chris Algieri got rid of his trainer, not to, go off the subject. And, he had a new trainer for Errol Spence, and we saw it wasn't the trainer. You know what I mean? So, Fonfara may be in that same position as well. So,
definitely. Moving forward here, Roy Jones facing bare knuckles boxer Bobby Gunn. Oh man, I love Roy as a man.
Now, I'll get this on pay-per-view.
Say what?
I'll buy this on pay-per-view.
You buy that one on pay-per-view? I don't know if I'd even want to watch it. I mean, I can't see Roy Jones get hit anymore. When he was a boxer coming up, I didn't like him. He was just too cocky for me. But honestly, without him, I wouldn't have a sight at all. I just kind of complained about the sport one day, and I sent it to Roy Jones along with some other people, and Roy Jones wrote me back saying, I like your boxing voice. I think you should, continue with this. So without Roy Jones, I wouldn't be sitting here today. He's a very nice man. I give him all the credit in the world. I don't want to see him get hurt anymore. As far as him getting hurt, though, I don't know. Who's Bobby Gunn? I mean, he's obviously a bare-knuckle boxing champion, but that has nothing to do with boxing with gloves on. That's a completely different sport already.
Let me just say, it's not the same as original or real style bare knuckle boxing, but BKB boxing, which is, the commercial version of bare knuckle boxing.
The opposite route. He was not in the BKB stuff. That BKB stuff, which they tried to do
that's what I'm saying.
Half bit.
It's not the original.
Right.
It's not the original, but
it's just these.
What I'm trying to say is in a different type of boxing atmosphere like BKB, Gabe Rosado is a world-class champion. And the real sport of boxing, but in the real world of boxing, Gabe Rosado is not over champion at all whatsoever. Roy Jones Jr. is a legend in this sport. A legend. Just like if he went up against a guy who was a top-notch MMA fighter in the boxing arena, I think Roy Jones could still win because he has that craftiness. And he's a legend in this sport. So I don't think a guy like Bobby Gunn can come in here and push around a legend like Roy Jones. And I do like this fight because it's entertaining. And I love Roy Jones. And I think he's going to prove to everybody he's going to look good winning this fight, okay? He already knows it. He's going to put together a hell of a game plan. And he's going to look good winning this fight. Now, should he retire afterwards? Definitely.
He should have retired 4 or 5 fights ago. I mean, I don't want to see him get knocked out. And if he does get knocked out by this guy, it's going to hurt his legacy. I want to see that.
Listen, talking about this topic right now, it's hurting me because I grew up on Roy. I love Roy. Roy was actually the first fighter I can say made me really get into the sport. But, Lucas, I have to agree with you. I don't want to see him get hurt anymore. For a long time, I felt that he should have retired after the Glenn Johnson fight. He put up a string of wins. I think, but at the same time, I have to agree. A guy like Bobby Gunn, I don't see, him giving Roy a threat because Roy is still crafty, still has hand speed, even for his age. You know what I mean? That Bobby Gunn has never really dealt with, even with a Roy Jones at his advanced age. But at the same time, if he does get hit, which could happen, I don't know. I really don't know, and I really hope Roy doesn't get hurt. This is someone who is being serious about the sport because we know what can happen in boxing. It's a dangerous sport. You could get hurt, and Roy's been very fortunate that after all the knockouts that he's had has gotten and the punishment he's taken, that he's still able to keep his bearings being a commentator at HBO. So I hope he doesn't get hurt. I'm a Roy fan. I love him to death. I watched him since he, did the cock move with James Toney. But I'm definitely not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to see my hero, be on some guy's resume. I just don't want to see it.
Yeah. That's basically how I feel too. So Rob, you're alone in that pay-per-view if there is.
I know. I mean, Rob, listen, if you're paying, brother, I'm there.
What about the year of 2016? We're coming up to a close here. It's been pretty disappointing, right?
Yeah, I put that in there in the topics because I wanted to sound off on this year. This year, to me, is beyond disappointing. It's beyond disappointing because you have duck fight after duck fight. It's ridiculous with these guys not agreeing to get into the ring. To cap it all off, you have a fight, which, was the fight of the year between Kovalev and Ward. And I'm sorry we got one knockdown, but we really didn't see, we really didn't get what we wanted out of that fight. Nobody's gotten anything that they wanted out of any single fight that we had this year, other than a Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman fight, right. which was a fight, but it wasn't legendary. I'm still missing that legendary Castile versus Corrales type of fight, man. Bring those back. I'm even disappointed with fighters with big names like Leo Santa Cruz. I'm disappointed that he lost. Frampton is a hell of a fighter. He's a young fighter up and coming, and he agreed to take that fight. But come on, man, you're supposed to be, vying for one of the top pound for pound. I'm not impressed with Chocolatito, who everybody thinks is the number 1 pound for pound fighter. But when his last, he stepped up great. He didn't look dominant at all. And you know how I feel about this one, Lucas. You can't be at that lower weight and be best pound for pound unless you step up and prove yourself. I give him credit, he stepped up, but he almost lost that fight. Put it to you like that. So I'm really not impressed with that. I'm disappointed in really the fights of the years that we had are B level fighters with guys like Salido versus Rocky Martinez, who got knocked out against Lomachenko. But those were, and then Salido versus Vargas, that fight, those types of fights, those are the best.
That was a real good fight.
No A level type of fighters with the best fight category at all. So I'm really disappointed in in this year.
I agree. I'm disappointed. I think, like you said, there was a lot of what seems to be tune-ups this weekend included with Melina Crawford. No, I don't think anybody really cares to see that. We already know what the outcome's going to be. More than likely, is going to be a Crawford knockout. And I think this year's been a lot of that. Garcia's been doing that a lot. I mean, that's why they call him the cherry picker. There's so many memes about Garcia, it's not funny. However, with that being said, he's agreed to take on Thurman at the beginning of next year. And with some of the fights that are already signed for next year, I think just the first quarter of 2017 is going to be better than all of 2016 was.
Oh, yeah, I definitely have to agree. I mean, I feel like for me, 2016 was a letdown because we didn't get Triple G versus Canelo. I know we're both thinking it. We're all thinking it. That's the reason why it was the biggest letdown. I feel like if we had all the fights we just mentioned now with Triple G and Canelo 2016, we all would have been like, oh, boxing was a great year. But, we know what happened. The fight that we wanted to see, next to Mayweather versus Pacquiao, and obviously we don't have to talk about that now. That's another segment we could talk about. But we all wanted to see Triple G versus Canelo. It was talked about 2015. We'd have it this year. It didn't happen. And, unfortunately, it got to the point where all the other fights had to make up for not getting Triple G versus Canelo. And even us being hardcore boxing fans, we were like, yeah, this fight is great. It's good, but it's still not the fight we want to see. And I think that's the reason why it's been such a disappointment.
I agree. I think Ward Kovalev also was a disappointment, not in the fact that it wasn't necessarily a good fight. I think boxing fans in general, myself included, kind of wanted that clear-cut winner. We wanted, somebody to either get demolished or just a clearly unanimous decision. We got neither. I mean, I felt Kovalev won. Rob feels that Ward won. I think most media ringside had it for Kovalev at least, slightly. I know Dan Rafael had it. 115 to 112, the same that I did. And that kind of puts a damper on things, too, because that's supposed to be for the pound-for-pound number one spot. And here now we're like, well, it's kind of vacant still. We need that pound-for-pound guy. We need somebody to say, they're the best, and we don't have them.
Ward still does not get enough credit for making that comeback.
Well, I give him full credit, buddy. I do. I mean, getting off the canvas with Kovalev. And the weird thing is our simulation kind of predicted the same thing. Our simulation video that I did, which, man, they need to come out with a new boxing game because that simulation it's unrealistic. It's way too many punches. But for him to get off the canvas and fight back like he did is nothing short of amazing. However, I still think he clearly lost the fight, at least by 2 or 3 rounds.
It's funny. I've watched that fight maybe 3 or 4 times, and 1 minute I'm agreeing with you, Lucas. The next time I watch it, I'm agreeing with you, Rob. The fight was close. I mean, I know a lot of people felt that Kovalev dominated, but, I think aside from that knockdown for the half, maybe the half of the later of the rounds, there were times where Ward was actually making Kovalev miss a lot of punches. And, I think a lot of people are looking at Kovalev's aggressiveness as opposed to the actual punches that were landed. And that's when, if you really look at it, obviously, you mute the sound and you really study it, you see that, this was a very, very close fight. I still have it a draw. I know it's odd to say that. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I had it 114-114. So yeah, I would love to see a rematch. That I'll pay for. I'll pay for the rematch.
So at least agree with me on this one. At least, because this is the honest truth when you look at this fight. For Kovalev to show dominance in this fight, he needed to cut off the ring. He just simply could not cut off the ring.
Oh, no, agreed 100%. No, I can't even – I was actually I can't say I was pretty surprised because Andre Ward, actually, that's really what he's been known for, his smarts and his ring generalship. I mean, I remember when the Super 6 Classic, when he fought – you guys remember when he fought Miguel Kessler. I actually had Miguel Kessler winning the favorite, and I thought Miguel Kessler was going to cut off the ring, and Andre Ward was making him look foolish. And it was kind of the same thing with Kovalev at that last half of the fight. Kovalev was having a lot of trouble cutting off the ring, which pretty much surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had problems cutting off the ring. And Ward's evasive. I mean, that's what he does. He's very good at his movement. Um, however, I mean, I still had him winning basically 1 through 4. I think really for it to be a draw, you have to give most swing rounds, if not all, to Ward. And that's where I'm getting kind of hung up at, is why everybody gives the swing rounds to Ward. Is it because, maybe he's a hometown favorite and we want the American to win? I don't know. But it's not like he ever stunned. He never hurt Kovalev. Yeah, he landed like maybe a hard jab every once in a while, but he was never really truly hurt. I mean,
Right.
And at the end of the fight, you can clearly see the difference. And make no mistake about it, Ward thought he lost that fight. In that video, and we have it on our site too if you want to check it, heavybackboxing.com, he clearly is like, oh yeah! he had no idea. He had no idea. He was ready for his loss speech. He already had it in his head. He's ready to be like, Kovalev was just a better man tonight. But he was surprised. He
thought
was.
That's all it was.
I can show the fans. You want to see it? Hey, hang on. Let's show the fans. I don't know. You guys might be able to hear it. If you're watching on Facebook, you can probably see it, but you can't see what I'm doing right now, I don't think. Here we go.
We had our camera trained on Andre Ward. So take a look here. We had our camera trained on Andre Ward. So take a look.
That's my opinion, man. He didn't cut, like you said, he didn't cut off the ring. He didn't do what he was supposed to. That's why he lost the fight.
This argument could go on for a long time. Longer than what we got for tonight. Any other topics you guys wanted to kind of touch on before we end for the night? One of our first Facebook Live ones.
I think I want to actually touch up on Deontay Wilder's comeback. I definitely, we talk about the lower weights and we totally ignore the heavyweight division. And I think one of the things that we need to talk about, and the reason why I'm excited for 2017 is I think the heavyweight division is finally going to come alive. Obviously AJ, he's got his fight, Anthony Johnson, which we pretty know what he's going to do to Molina. I mean, it's not, we already know what's set in stone. I mean, it's not even, it's got to be a miracle that Molina pulls this off.
Both Molinas lose Saturday.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think 2017 is a big deal. I'm looking forward to, Deontay Wilder coming back. I believe Anthony Joshua and Klitschko, they're supposed to be signing the fight next year. So, Deontay Wilder's comeback, heavyweight division. I want to get your guys' thoughts really on, what do you think is next in the heavyweight division? Do you think it can get to the glory days that it had with the Mike Tysons and the Holyfields?
I mean, that's hard to get back to as far as the golden era of that. However, Joshua and Wilder are good starts towards that. I don't know if there's really anybody else. There needs to be more than just those two. Klitschko's on his way out. And Fury, he's still up in the air. We don't know if he's even going to fight again. He says he is. He's in and out of mental hospital, so we're not sure. His whereabouts are still to be unknown. However, those are several fights just between the three of those that still could be pretty amazing and lead back to a pretty good division of the heavyweight, a resurgence of the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one rant that I forgot to get on too with the biggest disappointments last year in the heavyweight division, and being that Tyson Fury and Klitschko 2 never happened. But there's
Klitschko Joshua didn't happen.
That's right. Yeah.
But I mean, the heavyweight division is my division too, Jules. That's my dad's favorite division. That's how I grew up on boxing. That's where he grew up on boxing. It's gonna make a comeback. It's not gonna be the same as the Golden Eras. It's just not. But there's other names to throw out there. Luis Ortiz is another one who's a big monster.
Yeah. Yep, just signed with Eddie Hearn too. Yeah.
He's not far from his way out. Isn't he 40 already?
I think it's like 35, 36, but he's up there.
I thought he was on his way out already.
Luis Ortiz is big time in that division because he's a knockout artist, and he's a Cuban fighter. You know, I like Cuban fighters. You all know that.
I'd have to get a straight mill to fight Ortiz because I'm going to be missing some of the fronts.
Right. Ortiz is coming up. Deontay Wilder, I'm very interested in seeing what he can do.
Let's hope his hand heals, because if his hand didn't heal right, man, I've seen a lot of fighters with never the same after that.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
that's true. I think he's okay though. I think his camp knows what he's doing. By the way, Lucas, look out for me. I'm around the Alabama area. I think it was talked by me and my brother-in-law and a friend possibly going to see Deontay's next fight in Alabama, because we have people here that are from Alabama. So be on the lookout for that. Klitschko, I don't think is out yet. I think Klitschko wants to prove to these younger bucks now that are coming up that he can do something with it. I don't think he can get away from Joshua. My biggest issue with Joshua is my dad thinks that Joshua's the next Muhammad Ali. I
don't. Nah, it's far from that.
Rob, your dad must be British, because if you see my timeline, oh my God. Listen, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Listen, I'm a huge Anthony Joshua fan. Actually, I follow him coming out of the Olympics. But when I saw, them comparing him to Ali and he's one of the greatest of all time, I said, wait a minute, hold on a second. We got to take this back because he's got a lot to prove before we give him that mantle.
No, and that's true. That's why I said I hate that comparison. I really think people are so infatuated with what Ali was that they see this kid who's, very elusive in the ring, sharp with the punches, got a very sharp jab. He looks like he has the tools, so I think they get kind of crushy on it. Like they have a big time man crush on Joshua trying to bring back Ali in that era. But the heavyweight division, my issue with that is there's no clear cut. Like Lucas said, there's no clear cut division leader in that one. There's no clear cut person who sticks out. I do think Tyson Fury will be back next year, before the end of next year. I think if Deontay can heal his hand, that would be a great fight for him, considering the antics that happened in a Deontay Wilder fight afterwards when Tyson Fury was in there acting like a WWE champion.
All right, look, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think Tyson Fury's not worth a whole lot. All right. I don't think he's that great of a boxer. I think he gets off a lot of the fact that he's just a big guy. I mean, he was dropped by cruiserweight Cunningham. And I love Cunningham. Cunningham's been on the show before. Cunningham was on for a full hour with us just talking. I respect Cunningham, but he knows he's a cruiserweight. He knows also that he shouldn't have been able to drop that big man. I think Tyson Fury's chin may be a little suspect still. It's just a lot of people can't get to it. That's all.
I'm not Jules. I was the only one on the team who picked him to win that fight. To be Klitschko.
Listen, it was a huge upset. I mean, I had Klitschko by knockout. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it's funny. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, I was like, you know what, Klitschko was close to tying Joe Louis's record. You know what I mean, for the most title defenses. I mean, that's what I was looking for. And when he lost, it to me, and listen, I don't want to take away Tyson Fury's win, even though it was one of the ugliest wins I've ever seen in the heavyweight division. I think the only person maybe he beats him is John Ruiz. But I think in terms of his win, I mean, he's still the lineal champ. You know what I mean? He didn't lose his belt in the ring. We have to give him that credit. But the win for Tyson Fury, it wasn't about how good Tyson Fury looked. It was how bad Klitschko looked and if he was on his way out. And that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where we looked at Tyson Fury, we said, okay, it wasn't a great win, we're not really going to give you that credit because Klitschko was on his way in the decline. So it's an interesting theory in terms of, for me, if Klitschko's on his way out, we'll see, if he fights AJ next year, where he is.
I don't know if he's going to come back, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be plagued with injuries from old age and his height and everything else. And having his little model movie star girlfriend probably doesn't help things.
Well, obviously not. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
She probably got him running around doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Mountain hiking, shit like that. He's too old for that. He's supposed to be resting up now, get ready for fights. But I don't think Klitschko has too much longer. Maybe one more good fight left in him. That's all she wrote.
And Jules is part of the reason why Tyson Fury has a cocaine depression problem, because that's what he said. Nobody gave him credit for that victory. The odds are like,
let's be real though. That was the ugliest win that you could possibly get. Yes, you won.
It was terrible. I mean, listen,
it was the worst thing ever.
He won the fight, Right? Listen, I'm not taking the man's credit away. I've said it. He is still the man. You know what I mean? He's the lineal heavyweight champion. Even if he's been stripped or whatever, we can't take that away from him. But it wasn't what we want to see from our heavyweight champions. I mean, listen, the heavyweight champion is supposed to be the baddest man on the planet. There's supposed to be no one, who can stand up to this man. And for the fact that he had maybe one of the ugliest heavyweight title wins we've ever seen in a long time, it's one of those things where, unfortunately, you don't give him the credit. You say, okay, well, once again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not how good Tyson looked, it's how bad Klitschko looked that everybody was talking about.
Very true. One other thing we forgot to mention, a fight that's also like Kirkland Cotto, that's really just for fun, that nobody's actually going to, no pound for pound, no other implications in it at all. Brandon Rios versus Victor Ortiz. It's going to be a fun fight. However, I think Victor Ortiz is getting knocked out again.
Fun for who? I hate.
You hate them both? I think they're at least entertaining for however long they're in.
Rio is okay. I can deal with Rio, but Victor Ortiz, I can't. No, I can't do that.
What, you didn't like The Expendables?
Anybody? No, I hated the movie. I walked out, especially when I saw him come in. Oh, I can't stand Victor Ortiz, man. The best fight he ever had was Dancing with the Stars, and he lost that.
I don't think we can top that. So, with that being said, for Jules and Rob, this was Tough Talk Tuesday. Join us again next week.